Just kind of before we also move forward, just with our listeners listening out there, can you kind of give us just a brief about your background and what you're currently focused on?
So my name's Tom. I grew up in Glen Innes. Originally born in Australia, Kalgoorlie. I moved over to New Zealand when I was 10. Grew up in Glen Innes. It was early 2000s was kind of more of a rough time for a lot of the communities around there. Met my partner when I was 16, 17. Moved out to Mangere. Lived in Mangere for a long time. Bought a home in Otara a couple years back. Sold it. Moved back into Mangere and been like that ever since. What we've been doing, jiu-jitsu I got introduced to jiu-jitsu when I was a youth in Glen Innes. Like back in the day, Glen Innes was a bit more rougher than. Well, it's probably still pretty rough, but it was a pretty rough place. So knowing how to defend yourself was probably paramount at that point in time. I was lucky enough to be introduced to jiu-jitsu through a cadet's father. His name was Tom Ngapira. So I have to dedicate my Bushido to him.
Nice.
He's the one that introduced me to martial arts in general. And then after learning that, it's like what Jocko Willink says. It's like a superpower, right?
Yeah.
Whoa, things just opened up and things like that. Had a baby, kind of fell off for a bit, and then came and trained here in 2015. Got a skin infection, so I stopped.
Yeah.
Then came back when I was in 2019, and then I just went full bore into it. Got really into it and just been here ever since.
In terms of because with what you mentioned as well, you've been here ever since. You had the setbacks. You also had, how you first started off compared to now. What were, besides some of the setbacks that you kind of already mentioned, what were some of the obstacles that kind of also hindered you from pursuing it at a full-time rate? How some practitioners, they just go full throttle no matter how it goes. But, of course, you have family, we have a life as well. What are some of the obstacles that you've had within your life that also played a part in holding you back from keeping that consistency?
Definitely, the first thing that I would say, the first limitations when you start doing jiu-jitsu is definitely has to be physical. You're only as good as your body is. Let's not get it twisted. Jiu-jitsu, grappling, martial arts, it's a physical thing to do. So, if you come in very unathletic and expecting to be good at it, it's going to take you a long time. If you come in athletic, it won't take you as long. You can get past that boundary, that barrier of trying to do the athletic movements.
Nice.
But I would also say that probably doesn't feel as earned as if you started off unathletic, If you started off unathletic, you had to really work to try and get good. Whereas if you're quite athletic, you can kind of, what did you say? Cheat? It's not like a cheat. What do you call it? It'll be...
I think I have a feeling of the word. It's in my head.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Or it's not cheat. It's more of a...
It's like a crutch. It's something that you can always fall back onto.
Yeah.
So it stops you from being able to learn better technique. If you're...
The comfortable zone. Would it be more of a comfortable zone?
Yeah, it's you can always fall back to your athleticism.
Yes.
So it's like a crutch. It's something that stops you from being able to push your technique further, being athletic.
Just because jiu-jitsu is kind of like a strategic game.
Yes.
And if you have that athletic enhancement, it's a bit if you rely on it so much, you get to the point where, I'll just muscle them through.
Yeah. Your technique is not as good. So if you're relying on your athleticism a lot more, your technique kind of suffers in that sense. So I feel the people that stick around a lot are the kind of more cerebral type of people, the ones that find the enjoyment of trying to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
And trying to perfect the technique rather than just being athletic.
Just going for the smash all the time, man.
Yeah. Where they just want to win all the time. I feel like the people that kind of really thrive in jiu-jitsu are the ones that value the technique more.
Nice.
Yeah. So, what else is there? Another barrier. there's definitely life barriers. Like time management is definitely one of them. But like as you hear there's a common quote that they say, you never really have time. You have to make time. So if it's a priority to you to get good at something, you're gonna make the time to get good at it. So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, if you want to get good at it, you got to give it time.
Got to put in the work.
Make the time. For it.
Yeah.
There's no point saying like, oh, I don't have time doing stuff like this. It's like, if you don't have the time, man, just say, okay, you go and do the things that you want to do.
Nice.
Otherwise, just if you want to put the time into it, you'll make the time. You'll put the effort into it. That's one of the things.
I got a pop-up question just based off what you just mentioned as well. With time, because I know a lot of people say that they don't have time or they try and figure out an excuse, to say that they can't make the time. What do you think, just based on a perspective from the outside looking in, what do you think is the main kind of cause of that? Because like from me, I'd say that'd probably be fear-based. Sometimes it could also be in a way of like they don't want to put in the time because either it's their first or second class coming in and they're a bit too frightened because, well, they hear jiu-jitsu as a sport, but then like when they kind of see it, they see the tussling, the hustling, and then they get that kind of fear to kind of like, oh, maybe I won't, like subconsciously they think, oh, maybe I'll pull back and just sit down for a bit, but in a way it's hindering them from progressing forward.
Yes.
So in terms of like that type of answer or that type of mindset, do you think there are any other like hindrance that kind of lead?
I think that's a very good point. Fear is definitely one of them. And I think you probably felt it too. I've definitely felt it. You're driving, like you're coming into class and you're like, man, I don't want to get smashed again.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that feeling because it feels like it's very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Like to be bad at something is very uncomfortable. What can you do to mitigate that? Honestly, the one way, the one way to get rid of it is just to I was going to say just to do it, but maybe not just to do it. Expose yourself little bit by little bit. Expose yourself to that little bit of uncomfortability and then stop. Just a little bit, like just ease into it. So just drip feed it. Like if you think about linear progression and lifting weights, you don't chuck on 20 kilos every single session. You add 1.25 kilo to each side and then you progress slowly. I think it will be the same thing for fear. If you are uncomfortable about the martial art or anything like that, or anything in general, expose yourself to it in little increments. That way, it's kind of like, oh, it wasn't too bad. And you start to build up a little bit of mental resilience. It's like, oh, it's not too bad. Like, I managed to get out of the armbar that time. You come back and it's like, oh, I actually managed to get out of the armbar and stack him. It's like, oh, I actually managed to stack him and actually prevent the armbar in the first place. It's like, he didn't get the armbar this time. If you expose yourself in little increments, I feel that might help a little bit better. There's definitely the fear of getting injured, the fear of harm especially from a hard training room. But sometimes you just got to push past it. Like there's,
it's one of those barriers you just have to face head on. And
you got to, like what I personally think is that people try and chase the things that bring them into the present moment. A lot of people have their own vices. Some people like take drugs. Some people use sex and stuff like that. What I find is that people are just trying to bring themselves into a state of being present in that special moment or in that present moment. And for me, like jiu-jitsu is my vice because like nothing makes you more aware of your surroundings. Bills don't matter. Anything else in the world doesn't matter when you're getting strangled. You know?
Yeah.
Somebody's strangling you, you're like, you know what?
Yeah, you're just trying to survive.
My bills, they don't matter right now. I just want to try and live, you know? So like in that way, I kind of like chase that. Like it's a form of kind of therapy, like being present, just being present in the moment, because there's a lot of distractions, you know.
And it's also like would you say like a reform of like a mindset shift as well?
Yeah.
Just because the more you're kind of getting into those bad positions, you're kind of putting yourself in a position to get exposed to those type of different situations where you're in harm or different situations of like survival.
Yes.
You know, just always on the go, trying to figure out what's the best survival kind of route or the tip, I'd say, to make sure that you're not really like, killing yourself in somewhat of a way,
Yeah.
So definitely I can see that becoming a big play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd also see that, like, based on what you've mentioned as well with the character pursuits and also just how you show it within like the mental space wise, I kind of want to dab into the Jiu-Jitsu 275 community that you've established. So in terms of that, I just want to know if you can tell us a little bit about the idea, where it came from, the purpose for that goal, and also the program itself. Just give us a little bit of insight on that program and how it.
So I have to give like full credit to my wife Savannah. She's like first, hands down. So it started off as a bit. Like I really love jiu-jitsu so much that I really wanted to bring it into the community of Māori. There was an incident involving my daughter and her friends. They were chased home by some more students from their school, and my daughter does jiu-jitsu, so she knows how to defend herself, but other kids don't. And you see within the youth throughout South Auckland and stuff like that, their main way of handling a confrontation is through striking. Kickboxing is prevalent. That's their first idea of when it comes to fighting. So I wanted to bring jiu-jitsu to the community so that they can see that there's more than one way to settle your disputes. You don't need to induce blunt force trauma. You don't need to punch each other's heads in until they can't think anymore. You can put them to sleep with a chokehold, or you can force them to submit with a joint lock. Probably joint locks are probably cause more damage, but let's not get into that. It's a safer way of fighting if that's the idea behind it. It's also like they can train hard, they can fight each other in the gym, and then they can go home like without a black eye, without like being like punched in the face and stuff like that, with good brains.
Yeah,
which is like to me is a lot more beneficial to the youth. The thing started because I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy some mats. We're going to teach these kids how to do jiu-jitsu, and we're going to do it like that. And then my missus is like, well, where's your money? How are you going to do it? I was like, I'm going to sell all my tools, and I'm going to buy the mats myself. And then she's like, no, don't sell all your tools because we need this. Like, no, I'm going to sell them all. We started having an argument. She's like, no, I'll find a way. And then just to prove the point, she found a way. Thank you to CLM. CLM
nice.
Fitness and Maida Townsend and I Am Maida. Like, they helped us out a lot. She came through and was like, nah, this is how we're doing it. So we managed to get some funding through CLM.
Nice.
And with some help from Tony from I Am Maida and also Vicky from the Town Centre, we managed to get the ball rolling with the program. So
shout out to those guys, by the way.
Yeah, much appreciated, guys. You guys are big help. So we did that, and initially I was very nervous because I'm not too sure how the youth of Maida were going to take it. Because when you look at, like, you get there's a lot of impression that you get for jiu-jitsu. It's like, bro, jiu-jitsu pretty gay, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
you hear that a lot.
Like, guys, I know, but you get past it. And you can see how effective it is. And there's been a few students there that are really just taken towards it, and I'm very proud of them. Very happy with that. One of the things that I had to do for marketing, or that I didn't have to, I chose to do for marketing was tap me out challenge over in the park.
Yeah. The one you did at David Lungi? Yes. That
one was an experience because I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to be. Because naturally I'm quite a bit shy. I'm a bit of a shy person. It takes like easy to talk to you because we're comfortable with each other, I mean, and then like trying to go out there and just go up to random strangers and ask them to grapple. That one was a bit of an experience. I was like, man, I don't know. I was like, I don't know how these guys are going to be. Maybe what if they tap me out? I owe them $20, So getting into that, and all the boys there, I still got lots of footage for that, so I need to post it up and get their names out there. I appreciate those fellas for stepping up and helping to promote it, jiu-jitsu in the community. Good lads. Yeah.
That was one thing when I watched the video, I was also surprised as well. Just people getting in there. So it was a pretty exciting feeling as well when I was watching the video you posted. Just because when I saw it, it's like nothing. It's something that you would have seen before in the past, but not really done in NZ.
Yep.
So definitely it's like a niche type of idea for content. So definitely it was so good seeing that, and then like just all jokes with the boys having all around, like, oh, we'll come there because it's $20, we'll come there and we'll have a go. But it was just the whole the engagement behind it. That definitely the more you would post them, the more it definitely reach an audience would be like, oh, hey, this guy is having fun with it, showing the community that jiu-jitsu does work in a specific area or type of genre, and it can definitely be applied within life. Because as you mentioned before, or we have our talks, jiu-jitsu being a gentle art. And so watching the video, the content definitely sparked up an inspiration. I'd say probably for people out there as well, but also like on my end to be like, oh wow, like this is an idea that I never thought of content-wise. It's good, it's funny, it's crack up, it's engaging.
Yeah.
So definitely the more you post it, I definitely see it going like to a different length in terms of life. Yeah. But in terms of like coming out with when the first video I saw on that day, I was like mind blown on it. Just because like,
cheers, bro.
Yeah, cause it just came out of nowhere. It was like, tap me out for $20. I was like, what? Okay, sweet. Let's have a watch. And then it's just like some of the kids were just down just to get the money, you know?
Yeah. It was like, hey, $20, let's go. Yeah.
But then it's also thinking of as well, like, I feel like maybe some of the people who would have like joined, they'll be like, oh, seems easy. Like they haven't have that easy thought to it, but then once they get put in that bad position, they're like, hey, what's this? What is that? So I think from then on, once they kind of feel what it's all about, then that's kind of when they start to decide whether it's for them or not, So that's kind of the benefit I saw from just watching those videos and just kind of seeing that, like, oh, maybe subconsciously, the guy who you would have flipped around, did an Uchimata on him. He was like, oh, this move is cool. Like what did you do? Like,
what
so they start getting interested in the whole gist, and then that's when the whole program fits in to the philosophy of what the content portrays. Yeah. So, great idea.
No,
definitely a great idea. And because the content that's there, and also with the community you've created, definitely there is purpose between the two. And as you mentioned before, with your daughter being chased home with a couple mates. And definitely that was one of like a pinnacle reason why the jiu-jitsu community was started. Within purpose, there was this quote that I did learn from a pastor. His name was Miles Monroe. It was, the biggest tragedy is not death, it's being alive with no purpose. It is tragic to be alive and not know why, than to be dead and not know life. So coming in that sense, like where there is purpose, there is a defined fashion where there is a purpose where I need to strive for, that's kind of the goal where I need to establish. It kind of creates this component, like a key, would you say, like a component, more of a round robin of figuring out what leads to success and which pathway or which obstacle is going to get me there. Because in terms of purpose being a successful route and also a not so successful route. Not much people think that your obstacles and your failures can get you success, but also your wins can get you success. So it's both a two-way route. And coming just from that mentality, how would you describe your mentality when just pursuing ambitious goals?
That was a great quote.
Thank you.
I really like that one. That was good. Maybe send it to me later.
Yeah. I'll write it down and send it through message.
What was the question?
So describing just basically how would you describe just your mentality in terms of your mindset when you're pursuing an ambitious goal?
Okay, cool. So the way I look at it is that I've never been the type of person to do something and be instantly good at it. Never been that type of person. When I first started to do archery, I was horrible. I would be aiming for like that bag over there. It'd be hitting over there for some damn reason. I have no idea. when I first started doing graffiti art when I was younger, I was horrible at it too. I was so bad. When I first started to jiu-jitsu, I got smoked all the time. When I first started lifting weights, I was weak as shit. I've always been the type of person that's never been good at things from the get-go. It's always been a constant effort applied. One of the quotes that stick to me is that I've read from Miyamoto Musashi is the way is in training. So when I take that mindset of having training as the way, I've enjoyed the training, the practice, more than I actually have doing the actual thing. I enjoy training for jiu-jitsu more than I actually do competing. I enjoy practicing trick shots at home with my bow and arrow more than I actually do going out and actually putting an arrow into a good target. I enjoy mucking around with graffiti, just doodling and doing whatever, than I actually trying to design a piece that's for something. I enjoy trying to learn new exercises, just mucking around in the gym, than I actually do like trying to go and lift as much weight as I can. The way has always been enjoyment in the actual training part of it, the practice. So when it comes to something that I really want to pursue, I fall in love with the training before I fall in love with the idea of it. Like I like the idea of it, but I find the enjoyment in the training part of it. So that's always been something that's helped me to strive towards getting towards something, is enjoying the actual process. It sounds corny. Sounds like it's
To be honest, like
cliche.
I've actually never thought of it that way, like of enjoyment, because in my mind I was like, oh, you just have to do it because it
Yeah,
is.
you see,
Whether
you get driven towards that end goal.
yeah.
But the end goal comes when it comes.
Nice.
Enjoy this part here. Enjoy the part that you're doing.
The journey.
Little, like you probably get back and actually realize, like when you get to the top and actually see it and you look back, there's actually all of this stuff that you enjoyed the most more than the actual top. It's good to be at the top.
Yeah.
I remember talking to my best friend Teito about this. It was a concept of how you reach the mountain. For him, it was for te reo Māori, running te reo Māori. At the bottom of the mountain, there's a lot of shadow. You don't really see much, and the foundation is quite wide. So we made that concept kind of with the fundamentals, the base. You need a good foundation for a mountain, otherwise it doesn't grow up. Even a house, you need a good foundation, otherwise the house doesn't, like, you can't hold a good house on bad foundations. So in that part there, the base is wide, it's covered in shadows, there's a lot of unknowns, but it's all the fundamental stuff there. As you get up towards the middle of the mountain, it's a bit narrower, there's less vegetation, there's a lot more light there, but you can, there's less like fundamental stuff, but kind of, if you look at the resources up there, there's less vegetation. So the resources are getting less and less. As you get up to the top, what's so important about the top is like, it's actually the view, the perspective.
Looking
you see
downwards,
down.
yeah.
And then you realize that it's actually the stuff down the bottom that's important.
Yeah.
It's all of that stuff that you walking past all the way up to the top, and then you're looking back down, and you're like, oh, that's the stuff that's actually important.
It's like the stepping stones that kind of got you there.
Yes. The most important thing about being at the top is the perspective. So you can see more. And not only do you see what's at the base of the mountain, you see other mountains.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're at the top view looking out in the distance. So you're able to see the opportunity or what's out there once you reach a certain area in your life where, okay, I've climbed so high to the point where I'm looking downwards. I see all the journey that I've been through. I've seen all the hard yards, all the hardship. And I'm glad that this has helped me. But to this point where I'm at now, when I'm looking out in the distance, all I can see is what's next.
Yes.
And that's just the whole frame of mindset pretty much.
Yes. Like the top is great for the perspective. There's actually nothing really at the top. It's just pretty much the perspective of how you see everything, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a kind of a roundabout way of thinking about it, but I thought that was quite a good concept from the bro. So
hey, it definitely works for a lot of, like, it works for different people. They have their own ways of coming about things, definitely, and it's what kind of resonates with them. And if that's one way that kind of resonated with the bro, then definitely that way would work for him or people in his demographic in his area.
Yes.
So definitely is relatable no matter how it goes. It's just all depending on how we can use that idea to kind of pinpoint the mentality behind it so people can understand why they kind of go through that way.
Yeah, yeah.
But definitely, it's definitely an eye-opener or different viewership. Different viewership. Yeah. So definitely it, I'd say it would capture a wider audience in terms of like, oh, why did he think this way? Or like, why was this? Why was that? You would have explained to the point, but sometimes people would want to know more. And then at least they can just reach out to you later on and be like, oh, what was your thoughts on like, what made you want to say this? Like, what about the bro? How's he doing? Yada, yada, yada. And it just works from there. And that's the whole process of how life goes, I say. Yeah. Moving forward as well, just when you face setbacks or doubts, what kind of helps you push through?
Setbacks and doubts. I've never been one to, if I'm having a bad day or something like that, if I'm having a bad day or something like that, I've never been one to not come to training. Like like if I'm going through something hard, if I'm not physically able to, like I've got a commitment that I need to be at. If I don't have that commitment that I need to be at, I'm coming to training regardless of how I feel. When I first started jiu-jitsu in 2020-21, I had a real bad back injury. I herniated like 3 of my discs in my lower back, and that caused real bad sciatica down my left leg, to the point where I was having a tough time walking. It was that painful. It hurt to do everything. I was on mad medications. I had to take this antidepressant, not for depression or anything, but they say it helps with the nerve pain. So it was bad. I couldn't work, couldn't do anything, and then that made my mindset real low. But even though I couldn't train the body, I could still train the mind. So I would still be in here watching. And that's how the mindset has always been. It's just like jiu-jitsu kind of gives you that kind of mindset where there's always an escape.
Yes.
There's always a type of a wiggle. You just have to, sometimes it just takes a little bit of wiggle room. And that can work or something like that. If you're getting pinned, like if you're in a north-south choke, your head's thing, you're getting choked, but you can still move your hips. Still rock it side to side. And that causes a little bit of off balance. It gives you a little bit of breathing room just to move. So that's always been the way that I've looked at it. It's like, hey, can't really train at the moment. I can still train my mind. It's a little bit of wiggle room. I can work with that, you know? So there's always been that type of idea of, it's like, there's always a way to get out. There's always a way to get out. That's actually from Mr. Tom Ngapida, I learned that from. He's always, like, whenever we're stuck doing drills or anything like that, stuck on bottom mount, it's like, there's always a way to escape. There's always a way. You just got to get a little bit of wiggle room. There's always a way to do it. So when it comes to like bad things happening, you kind of have to be optimistic.
Yep.
Optimistic, but not like stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like getting, like if your arm's gonna break, like if you're getting like Americana and your shoulder's gonna snap, just tap.
Yeah.
You have to surrender sometimes. But if there is a thing where you're like, oh, it's actually not on properly, try work towards that little bit of wiggle room. And if you can apply that to your life, in anything, there's always a bit of wiggle room. There's always a better way. There's always a better way for yourself. There's no point trying to, like, you know, die and stuff.
Yeah, beat around the bush pretty much. Yeah. Be sad about life.
You just gotta. There's always a way. You just gotta figure it out.
So in terms of what you mentioned, you know, training the mindset, training, like if you can't train physically, you know, train the mind. In terms of what you mentioned, what are some, like, I don't know, daily practices or like routine? Like, you can just be 1 or 2 that you can kind of like help stay disciplined in that area, you know? Like, what are some things that you recommend?
Strictly for jiu-jitsu?
Strictly for jiu-jitsu, life in general. It can be something that can relate to both as well, either way.
For me, when it comes to, like, for jiu-jitsu, like, just to train the mind, just little daily practice. There's always like YouTube videos. I like to watch a lot of YouTube videos, especially around jiu-jitsu.
Free knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like you got B Team putting out world-class content for free. And you're just like, oh, like, you know, it's good. Like, so definitely watching them and like not just trying to see the techniques, but enjoying what they're doing. When it comes to other daily practices, I'm not one to get up and go for runs or meditate or anything like that. Although I do like to lift weights a lot. That's probably the routine, is going to the gym and just you try and get the more important things done earlier in the day, so you don't have to like worry about
worry about later where it piles up. Where sometimes if something happens,
yeah,
then you're like, oh, I need to get a gym session in, but you don't have enough time, and then it starts to go like the next day starts leading on the effect because of something that happened previously. You know,
like like getting up earlier. Getting up earlier is probably like one of the best things that you could do for yourself. It's just getting up earlier, so because when you wake up and it's early, and you're like, man, I got so much more things to do. Like I got so much more time to do things.
Yeah, the plane. I was like, oh, hopefully it goes by fast. There we go.
So when you wake up earlier, like there's so much. It gives you so much more time to do things, and I think that's something that that's another barrier. Is not having enough time, but if making more time for yourself, getting up earlier, things like that. It's definitely one of the ways. Otherwise, the other way of thinking about it is going to bed late. Like some people always say, oh, get up early, but what if you just go to sleep later?
Yeah, because I noticed some people do love to stay up night because it's kind of their peace time. Like I'm more of a night person myself, so I usually my best thinking for some reason it's been happening for quite a bit lately. It's the best time my mind works is during the nighttime or after I wake up before 12 p.m. So they're like basically the only two times where my mind works after 12. I'm like, nah, I can't be bothered doing anything. I kind of have to force myself into that state. But it's definitely a good point there in terms of like, whether you're going to go sleep late or wake up early. Definitely, one of the two, definitely.
I'm actually more of a go to sleep late type of person, but I need that time, so I got to get up early anyways. And other little daily habits, one that I've found that really sets the day right is having a clean room, like having a clean bedroom. Like I don't know what it is, man. It's just if your bedroom's not clean for some reason, it's just like, nothing's working. Everything is bad. I need to fix this first, and then everything is okay. You know, I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Not gonna lie, sometimes my room's always messy, so I'm more of I'll sleep in it if it's messy. I'm like, maybe I'll clean this later on and go sleep in the clean room. Someone else already cleaned the for me, so I'll just go sleep.
Something just needs something. Something. I think you just need to have something that you can control. And
nice.
Your bed, something like that. I know it sounds very Jordan Peterson style, like make your bed, everything like that.
I think it's in one of the Atomic Habit books. I haven't read it. I haven't really read it though, so I just seen like people experience the book and kind of like told me like it does say that as well. You know, clean environment, and also just separating your work environment to your personal environment as well. So definitely the clean bed is I think it's from the army. If I'm sure, I think it's an army narrative. Something like that.
The military is hard onto it. Like as I was in cadet forces, I was in the youth. I was in the New Zealand Cadet Forces, which is a great thing for youth as well. And polishing the shoes, polishing your boots, and having a bed so you can bounce a coin off of it was paramount. And a good beret. If your beret was like perfect, you'd be okay. Like those are the three things that everybody looked at. It was just shoes, bed, and your beret.
What was the main reason? Because I've never understood like the main reason why you had to like always polish your shoe or had to make your bed. Like when you wake up and it has to be at a certain time before like the guy walks in. What was the main reason behind that? Just like is it just to train?
It's maintenance. So like the thing that wears out the most is your boots. Because for military especially, like not modern military, old military. Modern military have a lot more vehicles. They invest a lot more into their transport. But in saying that, their maintenance for their machines and stuff like that are next level. Like they are onto it. They got checklists and everything. You never find anything more maintained better than military stuff. Before that was your boots. So you got to look after your boots because they're the things like your feet and your boots are the things that get you around places. If you got bad feet, bad boots, you're not gonna get very far. You can't mobilize your army to get anywhere. The bed, I'm not too sure what the bed thing is. I wouldn't have a. I
Would
wouldn't have a
would it
clue.
just be for like grooming? I mean,
It'd be like
clean,
personal hygiene and things like that. And it was also just like I don't know, like when you were like when I was younger, and if my room was messy, my parents were always like clean the bed.
Mm,
Not too sure. It's just I think it sets things in order. It makes things ordered.
yeah.
Yeah.
I heard it was to create it like just a habit of winning the day, something towards winning the day. It's like, oh, if your bed is clean, if like I think if your bed is clean, you're well groomed. At least if you don't win the day, you've won the day by doing the daily task that is necessary. So something to do towards that.
Yeah.
Definitely need to look into that properly, but that's kind of the idea, like what I've heard.
Yeah.
And I definitely think it might be along those lines.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Just never really found out why it was like
Yeah.
necessary, to be honest.
There's got to be a practical reason for it. Maybe somebody can out on YouTube
Yeah,
land can
definitely
let
can
us
like
know.
give us a whole
It was all I know is that it was a very technical skill that we had to learn. We had to do. They call it. I don't know what it was called. Like I forgot what it was called. I knew what it was called. I forgot what it was, but there's something about the corners. You had to like. It was like it's a
perfect fold.
It was like a kind of like
It's like probably what the hotel people do.
corners. Yes, it was that type of fold. Yeah, but I think hotel people have got down to an art form now.
Yeah,
They make it so good, you know.
like my uncle's in the industry, and like when he makes the beds at home, it's just like
It's like
smooth there, and I was like,
trying to get into the sheet, and it's like, man, this is so
like,
tight.
yeah. But then it's good because it comes for like a snug fit when you're like actually in.
Yeah, yeah.
The only thing is when you wake up in the morning and it's all messy, it's like, oh, that's right. Wait for them to come and clean it.
Yeah. Or if you're a person that likes to sleep with their legs on the outside, you like kicking
kick
it off.
out. Yeah. Just make sure everything's like all free flowing. Yeah.
That was a random ass like.
That was a random ass one. Just moving forward from there. Now, in terms of, what do you kind of like? I know that with the basically in today's fast-paced world, how would you manage being both a practitioner in jiu-jitsu and also just your life, your personal life, your family life? Like, what could you say like is a good manageable tip to keep them both happy? Because I know like some people where they want to make it in the fight career, they just solely focus on the fight and then they neglect like their loved ones' birthdays, their family kind of orientated type stuff. But some people don't have the luxury of having that type of what would you say? That type of mentality to go 100% and pursue it. What would be something that people could just like have listened to in terms of like a manageable tip where they see that jiu-jitsu or any type of martial art form can be definitely implemented in their life in a good rate, but just don't know how to balance the both with their personal life and their jiu-jitsu lifestyle? Or like what would be a little tip? Nothing too heavy or something.
For me, what I did.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Han, if you're listening. What I did was I joined my kids into jiu-jitsu. I got them into jiu-jitsu, so I was like, I get them into jiu-jitsu. I can do training every day.
Yeah, hey, that's actually a smart way of thinking of it because you're putting your kids into sport to learn, but you're also having the enjoyment of being there and watching them learn as well. So you kind of be like, oh, since they're here, they can kind of just wait for the next class while I'm done doing my training and just. Oh, that's actually good.
Like that's a funny way of putting it, but like if it's something that you really love, then try and like there's nothing wrong with having it as the answer to your life. You know, if you love jiu-jitsu, if you love anything that you do, there's nothing wrong with going at it full point. It only becomes a problem when you start neglecting the people around you. So there's nothing wrong with being obsessed with like jiu-jitsu, graffiti art, lifting weights. There's nothing wrong with any of that. The problem is when it starts making your relationships detrimental. You start neglecting the other parts of your life. So in that case, I would say don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Like it's great to have that ambition and drive to get towards being the top. And if you focus fully on that, then no doubt you'll get there. But you don't need to do it in a way where you turn into an asshole and neglect your kids, neglect your partner, put them to the back and things like that. I'm not gonna lie. When I was like, sometimes I do get like that as well. Like, so not at, I'm not a thing. But you know, like there's always a way to figure out how to balance it a bit more. I didn't like for me. Definitely have to. Like I can get too overconsumed with the things that I like pursue. So that's one thing that I need to try and work on myself is trying to reel back in and focus on what's important as well. And then as long as you have a good priority or list of things of what is important in your life, then you should be okay. But that was actually quite a hard question.
Yeah. It's one of those ones. It's one of those questions where, like, it's kind of like a throw off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like something you don't really think about, but then you also have to kind of like take into account, like, kind of step out of your own personal background to have a little thought on. So yeah, that's why I put it at the. I put it towards the end because I'm like, it's probably a question that's probably not asked a lot of, but then it kind of gets you thinking of, okay, what is actually a manageable tip that I could actually do on my end, and it just gets you thinking about like different possibilities and outcomes that can kind of just have a thought on, okay, sweet, this is what I found that works for me, and then it's just whether I can try and formulate that in a way where it sounds like it makes sense in some type of way, you know. But yeah, that's the whole kind of idea behind that question.
I do have actually one thing that's actually just popped into my head is one thing that really helped me get through some tough times is this. It's a pretty stupid line, but it was it's not about me. You don't make it about yourself.
Yeah.
You know, if you have the idea of having like, I'm gonna do this for my family, I'm gonna do this for my thing like that, you're kind of you're kind of making it about yourself. But if you try and take your perspective and make it like it's not about you, I feel like that sometimes helps make the balance. Say for example, you're feeling pretty low and things like that. If you think about the effect of you doing something stupid would have on other people, and you take yourself out of that selfishness and put it put the effort into like helping other people progress, it actually makes you better. Makes you feel better. Not makes you better, makes you feel better. And also it kind of helps like elevate yourself as well. So if you think about it as like it's not about you, it actually helps. If you think about it like that, it actually kind of helps balance things.
Takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off like your own mental state.
Yeah. Somebody can help out with the wording of that. But that one's actually helped me out a lot. It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's helped out a lot. Yeah.
I hear that a lot because sometimes, like, you know, people would be like, oh, like they say the same thing, you know, I'm in it for my family, I'm in it for this, I'm in it for that. But it still has a component about a you factor, which is in there. But then, I'm doing it for this, I'm doing it for that. Which in some sense it could be, yes, I am doing it for them, and yes, like it's a great really motivator, because it's like a two-way thing, you know. But it's like trying to frame it in a way of like you want to do it for the ones you love, but in a way that's not all idealistic for yourself. So it's just probably coming up with what could you say, like a perspective? Would you say a perspective on that type of sense, and to making it like, because it's not about you, then what can we kind of frame it to be about the goal that kind of what sits within whatever drives you, if that kind of makes sense. Can you kind of get what I mean? So I'm thinking that it might be just based on trying to figure out, you know, if it's not about you, then who is it for? If who is it for has the type of value that you want to provide to, what are you getting out of it? Yeah. So it's just that type of process, I'd say, process of elimination in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think a good example.
Sorry. So how many planes was that? Like 3?
Yeah. So I think a good example of like it's not about you, who I think is very good at exemplifying that is Khabib. If you look at Khabib, his last fight without his father, he was like, no. And they're like, man, you can do it. Like, you can do it. Just one more fight, and it's 30-0, and you wrap your career off and it's all done for him. It's like, no, this wasn't about him. So he turned around, put his effort into his best mate, Islam Makhachev, and work where Makhachev is now. So that type of thing probably helped him with the grieving process. He's like, you know, it's not about me, it's about what father thought, and father thought Islam is the best fighter. So
Go with him.
and I think that is a great example of selflessness. Like, it's not about me, but I also think it helped him in a way. I don't know for sure. Like, this is from my outside look at it. Like, this is what I see.
From your perspective, seeing it,
Yeah.
seeing how it all unraveled.
Yeah. And if you look at it, like, people that are truly selfless tend to be very admirable people. People that really put themselves out there for others, really help out. And then you're like, you know what? That guy's a good fella, you know? And that's, to me, that's the real way of elevating people.
Yeah.
Is by helping others. Because if you help others, if you help bring up other people, then everybody can eat, type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. If you're lifting up one person on one side and also like they're lifting up another person, you're like, there's a chain of just people uplifting each other.
Yes.
And like, especially within NZ, that's something that's not really noticed.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to come across. Well, that I've noticed because like, I won't dabble too much into it, but you know, tall poppy syndrome over here, you know, really big. So everybody wants to look down on you, whether you're pursuing something big for yourself or if it's like, you know, for the people that surround you. Any big thing, they just, people who have a lot of self-doubt within them, they
Chop
just,
you at something.
yeah, they just love to chop you down bit by bit. But then I've noticed that it's more of a, like a self, what is it? It's more of a self-conscious in terms, not self-conscious, sorry. It's more of a, on their end, it's more of the fear that they lack and their self-confidence, that's the word. It's more of that in terms of not being confident in themselves. So the only way they can do it is to make sure that everyone sits at the same level. So they provide that negativity for people to drop down and just like they see you going to places or like they even just see you pursuing a dream that they probably wouldn't pursue, but because you're going one up from them, they'll see that and they're like, oh, no, you come back down. And that's the heavy thing about, not gonna lie,
it's a sad reality of life. This was one of those things that happened. And I'm pretty sure it's been happening since humans have been around, you know? I'm pretty sure
it's been for long.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's a sad reality.
It's actually worse, I think. Sorry, so I'm just going to wait for this plane to... I think it's really worse in NZ. I think tall poppy syndrome is like probably the worst thing here. But definitely that's probably another talk for another episode in terms of tall poppy syndrome.
Sounds good.
Before we kind of finish things off, I do have a little game. It's like a quick fire round.
Yep.
It's just 10 questions for you. All I need is just one word or a short answer. These ones are just, they're all random questions that I just put all together.
Yeah.
I'm just going to fire them out. And then, either one word them or real short answers. And we kind of just go from there.
Yep.
All right, first question. What is your favorite way to relax?
Jiu-Jitsu.
Obvious answer. What's your go-to submission?
Kimura. Fuck it.
Kimura. What's the best family tradition you cherish?
Eating in the car.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, takeaways in the car.
Good yarns, good conversations there. What's one word that defines success for you?
Fun.
Fun. Exciting.
Enjoyment.
Enjoyment.
Yes.
Who inspires you the most in your family?
My family. Probably my wife. My wife, yeah.
Got a controversial one here as well. Gi or no gi?
No gi. Right.
All the gi guys watching this is gonna be like, hey, whatever you do in the gi, you can do in the no gi. It's the biggest statement you hear everywhere. I knew that was an obvious answer, but I was like, I'll put it in there.
Controversial. Yeah, it ain't controversial at all.
At least we know no gi is where it's at. What motivates you every morning?
Not having a sore back.
I feel like once you feel that type of pain, it's like demotivating for the whole day. You're like, you know what? My back's ruined. My day's ruined.
Yeah. But then like, after having that back injury, man, every single day when I wake up, I was like, oh, back's not sore. I'm good, man.
Yes. You're living. You're living. What's your biggest strength?
Probably my persistence.
Persistence. What's the hardest lesson you've learned on the mats?
There's always a bigger fish.
Mm.
There's always a bigger fish.
That's you can probably relate that to anywhere as well. Like there's always a bigger fish. There's always someone doing more. There's always someone like achieving your goal a lot more than you are, and it's just
There's
how
always-
you want to take it.
Yeah, there's always a bigger fish, but hey, big fish get caught too.
Good mentality to have around.
Yeah. Like so, that's a good way of like being humble.
Yep.
Like having humility, because like man, like because I'm not like the greatest ever or anything like that, but I'm okay. I'm decent, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like that. Okay, always can be better.
Yeah, 100%. Great answer on that one as well. And the last question for the game is, who's your BJJ role model? You already told us, but either way.
Like technique wise and concept wise, definitely Craig Jones. I think he's so much like he's very, very innovative, and the way he's changed to kind of make jiu-jitsu more relevant, especially in the MMA scene. Like not like more relevant, it's always been relevant, but like to kind of evolve it that next step, especially with Volkanovski and his style of like teaching him and all that is definitely something that I think is really that's really given me a big insight into how jiu-jitsu can work. But lifestyle wise, man, I like the old masters, like the Gracies. I like their old ways, like their philosophical way of living. I like the Japanese, like the old school karate masters too, and their philosophy, like of life and things like that.
Because it plays parts in all areas of life.
But the ultimate OG's got to be Musashi, bro.
Oh,
Can't beat it. 63 duels to the death. Killed his first man at 13 with a wooden stick, with a wooden sword. You can't.
Yeah, I don't know much, but I thought that seems like real interesting. In terms of 13, you're saying 13?
He was 13 years old and he was on a boat. He made a wooden sword out of an oar.
Like a katana, a wooden sword.
Yeah.
Damn.
He made a wooden sword out of it. He carved it out of an oar.
Yeah.
Went out there, killed a dude.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That's a different mentality
That's
there.
that's different, eh?
A different
Like,
breed.
yeah.
Different breed.
From him, like, there's all the sayings come through. The sword is the answer. The
Yeah.
training. It's like, why be anything else? If you're a warrior, be a warrior. Like, all of those things.
All those disciplines.
The emphasis on carpentry and how you can approach that into martial arts. Like, Book of Five Rings is solid. The Dokudo.
The Book of Five Rings.
Yeah.
I need to give that a read. Yeah. Because I'm like, I've actually never heard like some of these terms. Like I've heard you mention it, but then like when you like really talk about it, like it actually does make like sense in the type of area where I could see it being beneficial, and definitely it is because like as you can see from you. Oh yeah, in terms of the 10 questions, I was there for the 10 questions. Thanks for your answers, bro.
Thanks, man.
Just quickly though, just before we even close up as well, just got off probably like three or four more questions. If you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting in their BJJ journey, or if it's in their growth journey, what would that be?
Don't get injured.
Don't get injured.
Don't get injured. Number one way to stop jiu-jitsu, getting injured. So stop. Don't get injured. Yeah, that's everything. If you feel like you're in a dangerous position, tap. If you feel like you're going against somebody and they're just way above you and they're going real rough, say, stop, man. I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to get hurt. I'm going to go try. Just don't get injured.
Stay injury free.
Stay injury free and you'll enjoy it a lot more.
Love that. And in terms of your future focus, what's on the horizon for you, and what's the next big goal you're working towards?
Definitely lots of competitions this year.
Nice.
So 2025, really want to go through competitions. Want to go overseas and compete overseas too. For the last 10 years, something I need to work on is definitely weight loss. Always the weight loss. But
It's consistent progress.
yeah. But resolution for this year is tracking. Tracking calories, tracking finance, tracking what was that, time. Those are my things that I'm focusing on this year. Tracking.
Tracking. Love that. And in terms of just people keeping up with your work, but also for our listeners, where can they find you, man?
Yeah, you can find me on Jiu-Jitsu 275. That's for the 275 program. If you want to see my graffiti art, 1-2 graffiti. If you want to see just me, it's Tommy 1-2. So,
Yeah, I'll definitely post the tags. I'll put the tags on the video as well, and also in the description. So our viewers can have a gaze, also follow the journey as well. But yeah, definitely, team, give him a follow, give him a subscribe. Yeah, whatever. If he does YouTube, I reckon YouTube's the next push for you as well.
Try and get
Definitely, if it does happen through, I'll link everything in the description below. But yeah, kind of just closing off this episode. And yeah, thanks again to everyone that's watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys. Cheers, mate.